Alright, what is your favourite music genre aside from metal? I'm going to say rock will be my favourite genre aside from metal. Listen to a lot of rock. It's on the radio, in the car, at work. I play bass in a rock and roll band. We play a lot of older music in that band, like Elvis and Beatles and stuff like that. And then in my house when we were growing up, my parents didn't really listen to very much rock music. They did a lot of dance. They did like ballroom dancing and all that sort of stuff. But there was some rock like Billy Joel, Jimmy Barnes, Midnight Oil. Yeah, I can't really remember much else. There's a lot of Michael Jackson. Yeah, that's about it. Can you talk a bit about your musical background and musical education, previous bands, other instruments? Yep. When I first joined a band, I would have been 13 or 14. I didn't actually play guitar. I joined the band to be the vocalist, and after the first or second rehearsal, I think we all pretty much agreed that I couldn't sing. But I was really good friends with all the guys in the band. Like I went to school with them all, and we didn't really know many people that were into music or into being in a band. And so I thought I'll buy a guitar since I'm not going to sing, just so I can still hang out, still play in the band and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I bought a guitar, learned a few songs. Back then, I taught myself to start with, listening to bands, listening to Nirvana. That's pretty much all I was listening to at that stage. The longer I played guitar for, the more I started to listen to slightly heavier music. I started to get into bands like Metallica, learning guitar to play those songs. The band I was in was called Antilla, and we didn't really do anything. We played like one show on a school music night or something like that. I would have been 14. We played Green Day and one original song. After that, I thought it would be a good idea to get some guitar lessons, but at my school, like they did music at my school, but guitar wasn't an option to do lessons for. You could do everything else. You could do drums, you could do bass, because they were all in the big band. So I wanted to play drums. There was something like 180 kids in my year level at the high school I went to, and there was only enough spaces for about 8 drummers. And so of course everyone wanted to play drums, so everyone tried out, and I didn't make the cut, so I didn't play drums. But I still wanted to play drums, but my folks didn't want me to have a drum kit in the house either, just because it was too noisy. And I was like, well, I'll show you. And so I decided to play the trumpet. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do the trumpet was because the music lesson was during school time, and so I'd miss out on one period of whatever class I had to do to go and do music, and I was pretty happy about that. But quickly realised that trumpet was not the instrument for me, and I had no interest really in playing the trumpet. I wanted to play in a band, or in a rock band or a metal band or something like that. Play more the music that I listened to. So after that, I got a few guitar lessons. It was probably a year or two of guitar lessons with a teacher at the school who did guitar lessons after school, private guitar lessons after school in a group setting. So there was always probably 10 people there, and he taught us songs. Like he'd show us chords. We'd learn all the chords, do bar chords, all that sort of stuff, and then he'd ask the students in the class, what song do you want to learn? And then, so everyone would sort of get a go at learning a song, and everyone would learn that song, so we got to learn lots of different songs, big variety. The biggest downside to learning guitar the way I did was theory. I didn't know theory, period, anything. I knew the chords, I knew pretty much, I could work out where the notes on the guitar were, but I didn't know how the notes on the guitar worked together. And I didn't know scales. I still don't know all my scales, like all that sort of stuff. So yeah, there's still lots of things I need to learn on guitar, but haven't. After that, started hanging out with a few other guys, and they were looking for another guitarist that I went to school with. And they had a guitarist who had left my old band, and he had started a new band, looking for someone. One day after school, they came up as we were walking home and asked if I wanted to come and try out or join the band, and I was pretty keen. The bands that they were sort of listening to were bands like Sepultura, Soulfly, Machine Head, and I wasn't really into music that was that heavy at that stage. Like, I was still in the Metallica sort of hard rock stage of my musical experience. But yeah, I thought, it sounds more, it's the next step up from where I was, and these guys sounded pretty keen. They were, in hindsight, they weren't tight, but they were tighter than the band I was in previously. And yeah, so I went down. I actually had one of my best mates in the band. Who played bass. And I went to primary school with him as well. He lived like 4 houses away from me. So it was more of a, still, once again, like the second band was a friend hangout. Like, I knew everyone in the band beforehand. So it made it fun to go to rehearsal. Even if we weren't playing music, you'd go and just hang out and just do things together. And then that band, we didn't have a name for a long time, and then we were playing a show at our, like, a school fundraiser day, and we needed a band name. I couldn't come up with anything. We couldn't really come up with anything, but at the time I was listening to an Australian band called Segression, and they have a song called Ramrod. So let's just call the band Ramrod, and then we'll go from there. And then it's stuck for like the duration of that band. Yeah, we played lots of songs. Lots of Sepultura songs. Sepultura was like the thing for the band. Sepultura, Soulfly, Deftones, Korn.
I got my pride and that's all I need. I'll make you bleed with another rose at the radio. So take advantage of the process. You might have to die just to breathe. Pay for your ass to pay. I'm living on instinct, never think when I'm a drink on crushing down. Wow! God! God! Sunshine! I follow you when I move, and I use you, kind of sneaky, kind of faking. Walking games on, going trickling great, become my soul, starting from now on.
Linkin Park, Machine Head, all those sorts of bands. They're the bands that Slipknot, all that sort of stuff. They were the bands that I was listening to, and they're the songs that we were playing at that stage. Even like some grunge and a little bit of punk and stuff, like Exploited, a little bit of Green Day, Offspring. Yeah, it was just that was what we were doing at the time. The further we got on in school, the less some of the guys in the band cared about what we were doing in the band, and so we'd just slowly drop away, stop coming to rehearsal, not leave the band, but they just didn't care. We'd have rehearsal and they'd be like, oh yeah, I forgot, or I can't be bothered, I got this on, or whatever. And so the band slowly disintegrated, but I was living with the drummer at the time, because I lived with him for a long time. He's one of my best mates, still is my best mate. And the band essentially sort of fell apart, and it was just he and I. But we kept playing, kept writing every day, because we lived together. We could play every day, so it was fun. And then he got offered to join a band called Agomera, and I was a bit pissed off about it at first because he started to play all that, but we were still living together. But he didn't have that much time anymore. Anyway, they eventually needed another guitarist, and so they asked me. I rocked up. They were like a black metal band. I wasn't really into anything like that. I wasn't into black metal. Wasn't really into death metal. Sort of the only sort of death metal bands I sort of listened to would have been Deicide. I knew of Cradle of Filth, but at that stage it wasn't really doing anything for me. So yeah, joined that band, went to the first rehearsal, they showed me the riffs, played through the song, was good, and it was really, really good. It was like that next step again for the musical experience, and like the tightness of the band and all that sort of stuff, the experience of everyone in the band. And with that band is where we started to play live shows. We did a lot of sort of, not battle of the bands, but band nights. In Melbourne, we've got this thing called the Muso Network, and it used to be in Noble Park at the venue, and then they've would have been nearly 10 years ago now, they moved to Dandenong at a venue called the Castle. I'm not even sure if it's still there anymore, but even Neo, we did some stuff with them at the Castle. So yeah, played with that for a while, played a few shows, recorded a demo, never really went much further than that. Band split up, I left the band and then the band split up, and I wasn't going to play in the band anymore. I was not going to play guitar. I just thought I was 20 or 19 or 20 at this time. I didn't really know anyone that was looking for anyone in a band. I knew lots of people in bands, but yeah, no one who needed a guitarist or was doing this type of thing that I was listening to. Anyway, by the time the band had disintegrated, I was right into bands like Cradle of Filth, Dimmu, Old Man's Child, all those sorts of heavier sorts of bands, and yeah, wasn't really doing anything. And I had met my now wife when I was 20, and we ended up living together. And I had a whole room dedicated to my music stuff, which, because I wasn't playing in a band, I wasn't using. And she one day said to me, "What are you doing? You've got all this gear. I've been playing for this long. So you should look at trying to join another band." And I was like, "I don't know anyone. I don't know anything. I didn't even have an email address. This is how far back we're going." Didn't really use the internet at all. And then before I know it, she comes walking out of the study room that we had with a printout saying, "Here's a ad for a band in Melbourne that they're looking for a guitarist. It's like a black metal band with violin." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, cool, I'll give him a call." Anyway, I called up and I spoke to Zen on the phone, and because I actually called up a couple of other bands as well, and then talking to them on the phone, by the time I got off the phone with them, I didn't want to have anything to do with the people that I'd spoken to on the phone. I can't remember what the bands were called. I don't know who the people were. Like, I can't recall who any of the people were. But just the attitude of some of the people that I was speaking to on the phone really threw me off. Like, I would never have auditioned for that band just after speaking with them on the phone. And anyway, yeah, I spoke to Zen, and he sounded switched on, and he knew what he wanted, and he was the one who sort of came up with the band, or started the band. And he explained about, they had a violinist in the band, they had a soprano female singer, and so did a gommer in my old band, had Sarah, who plays in, Sarah Lim, she plays in Earth, and I think it's Electric Dynamite in Melbourne. Anyway, and that was the kind of thing I was after. We played, and then so I hung up, we organised to have a catch up for a rehearsal or audition, and I nearly didn't go. And it just on the day, in the morning, I sort of woke up and was like, fuck it, I don't know if I should be going or not. I don't know these guys, it's going to be shit. And my wife's like, nah, you should just go anyway. If it's crap, whatever, don't go back, but just go. Anyway, so I went, and yeah, it was cool. No one was very good at what they were doing in the band. I got there and I was like, I didn't know the songs. They're trying to teach me the songs, and I'm just playing. And in my head, I'm just thinking, God, these guys are shit. I thought I was shit, but these guys are really shit. But I don't have anything else on at the moment. So until I find something better, I'll just stay here. And that's sort of what happened. Before I know it, we were in the studio at North Melbourne Institute of TAFE, and Institute of Technology, and recording a demo. And it wasn't until then that I'm sort of like, I guess I'm in the band. I just sort of kept coming back every week. We never really had "you're in the band" sort of situation. It was, yeah, we just kept going back, and that's how it happened. So yeah, we did that, and we recorded a demo for "Fellow to Sea," which was the first song I'd written for the band. Like, that was all my ideas, pretty much. And yeah, it went from there. Yeah, and then I was in Neo, and I guess the rest is sort of history with my band experience. And yeah, and so other instruments I play. I don't play any other instruments as a main instrument. I muck around on the drums. And bass. I can't play keyboard, but I have a keyboard just to play sounds, or when I was doing early demos, yeah, like the symphonic sound, like that's the sort of thing I was after. And because I didn't have a violin or anything, I just would play strings on, just the notes of the strings on the keyboard. Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, and my newest addition to my list of musical instruments I play is the egg shaker, so it's quite an achievement. I saw you've got another question or another little note under this saying, by the way, I loved Melbourne, can you film outdoors and stuff? No. The city, I don't live in the city, I live in the suburbs. And I don't go to the city very often unless I have to. I don't know, I don't go to the city. There's enough around me, around where I live now, to do all the things I want to do. It's like its own little, it is its own little city out here. Yeah, the only time I really go to the city would be to go to a gig, or go to our show, or really rarely go to a gig nowadays. I spend so much time on tour and overseas. I make sure that when I am home, I'm home, and because I've got a wife and 2 children, I need to make sure that I'm there because I'm still dad when I'm home. So going out, going to the city, going to see bands, unless it's a band I really, really, really like, I don't go out anymore. I see enough of the bands I like on tour now. So unless I know them, or they're a band that I really, really like, something like Opeth or Devon Townsend or Meshuggah, probably I don't go out very often. Favorite band or song where thrashing is unavoidable? This would be Slipknot's "Sick." It's like the first real track, the second track on the album, but first real song on the first album, or the debut album. And yeah, that's just the song that's can't stop, can't do anything. Gonna hit bang and go off to it. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, me and Dan jam it out every now and then when we're mucking around waiting for everyone else. Joey, what is the favourite part of your new album? Of course, you can't really have us listen to it, but anything in particular? Yeah, that's a hard one. Every song on this album is very different, and there's something in every song that I like. And but like Intravenous is probably the most fun song for me to play on the new album. I know, it's just a really groovy song, makes me want to go like this. But Libera Part 1 is probably my favourite track on the album, and that is the song that we did the gang vocals for as well. So that was something very different that we did the gang vocals. But I think the song that I'm the most proud of, but the most not worried, but it's a different song. We have never done a song quite like this before. Was Eerie. The start of it. I wrote the start of the song. That was the first thing we had written. Oh well, after Citadel, like it was pretty much just after Citadel came out, and we had a rehearsal, and it's like, okay, let's come up with an idea for a new song. What's anyone got? And everyone's sort of looking around. I was like, okay, and I put my hand up and I played this thing, and everyone sort of like, yeah, cool. And we starting to jam, and I had it in my head how I wanted it all to go, and it wasn't coming out the way I had it in my head. And so every time we jammed, I was like, no, it's not quite right. It's like this, like this, like this, and it was just not gelling and not happening the way I wanted it to happen. And so it sort of got pushed to the side for a long time, or probably a year or more. And then using the same chord order, I guess, but changing the strumming and the feel of the riff, or the feel of the section. I eventually came up with what was the start of Dublin Prog, the story behind that was when we were in Dublin, we had a day off, and Tim and I were like, we need to start putting the demos down. On the last tour, we purposely brought our Pro Tools rig with us on tour so we could do that, and it was great. It was one of the best things we've ever done on tour because of all the downtime we have. Sometimes it's hard, like sometimes you have downtime and still there's nowhere to do this sort of stuff. So that was our only problem on the last tour. But on our headline tour, if we had this, it would have been fantastic. And so we demoed that, and Tim had lots of really, really, really good ideas to go over the top. And so that was sort of, that song is a big collaboration between Tim and I. Benji did write riffs for the song, but it was more a submission of riffs more than anything. That song is Tim and I working together to compose it and put everything where it's meant to go. But yeah, when I heard the first mix, even recording, so Troy would send us mixes of what we've tracked, and all the songs were sounding great except for this one track. And I was just like, oh shit, it's not turning out the way I want it to turn out. I don't know if it's any good. I don't know if it's good enough for the album. And it wasn't until we got it back from Mark Lewis that I sat there and listened to it and was like, oh my god, this is good. It's all going to be okay. And so yeah, that's sort of what happened with that. And I listen to it now and I still surprised with how it's turned out. Like I'm really, really happy with it. Whether everyone else likes it is a different story, but yeah, I'm really, really happy with how it is. Dan, what is your favourite thing to do outside of the band? Spend time with the kids, probably. Do things with the kids, not just spend time with the kids. I like to go out, we like to do things. So whether that's we go to the beach and go for a surf, or go bodyboarding, or we go fishing, or we go camping, things like that. Just I like spending time with my kids and my family. At the end of the day, I'm still dad at home, like I said before. So yeah, I make sure, because I am away for a lot of the year. Like last year, we were away for 6.5 months. The year before, we were away for 5 months. So it's a long time, especially because like my boy Jay, he's 3. My daughter Emma, she's turning 6 in a few weeks. So yeah, like it's a big sacrifice they do. I miss out on a lot of them, and they miss out on a lot of me. So when I'm home, I try to spend as much time with them and do as much things that I wish I could do all the time with them. And I make a real effort to sort of do that sort of thing. So yeah, spending time with the kids and the family is probably the thing I'd like to do outside of the band. Before I had kids, I used to like doing extreme sport sort of things, like bungee jumping, skydiving, whitewater rafting, all that sort of stuff, high adrenaline yeah, that's the sort of thing I like. But that's also why I do the band. The adrenaline, being on stage, playing live. That's my most favorite thing about being in the band. I just love playing live. The energy, the emotion, the interaction with the crowd. Yeah, that's why I do it. Pretty much the feel. Which guitarists influenced you the most? Early on, the guitarists that influenced me the most, definitely, which is probably a little bit surprising with the band that I'm in now, but it was people like Kurt Cobain, James Hetfield, Rob Flynn, Max Cavalera, and then later on, bands, not necessarily the guitarists, but the bands, the type of riffs that they were writing, yeah, like Cradle of Filth, Dimmu, all that sort of stuff. And then and then I joined Neo and was exposed to this world of prog metal, not just this Slayer, not just that sort of metal, and was introduced to bands like more proggy sort of bands, and then quickly the influence moved to people like Petrucci, Ackerfeld, Devin Townsend. Even Devin Townsend was earlier, but yeah, Devin Townsend, Paul Masvidal. All their musical style was the style I started to listen to heavily, and it had a big influence on how I write, or how the band writes as well. But the biggest guitar influences that I've ever had would have to be Corey King and Benji. They're the people that have got me to where I am with how I play guitar nowadays. Without their help, I'd still be playing. I wouldn't be playing the stuff I'd be playing now if it wasn't for them. So yeah, they're the two main ones. What are the most important things that have happened to you in your life? The two most important things is Emma and Jay, my daughter and my son. They're the two most important things. I would drop everything today if I had to, if it meant I was going to lose them. No contest for anything else. They're the two most important things in my life, them, and then my wife Sharon as well. She's been there since the start, since I started in the band. She's the reason I was in the band. She found the audition for me, supported me the whole time while we go on tour, while she stays at home and looks after the kids, and looks after the house, and my family is the most important thing to me. Are there any Neo songs that you rarely or never play live that you wish you could play live more often? Not really. It used to be before we had a extended catalogue with the last few albums, when we were touring just on Portal of Eye, or even when Citadel first came out. Because when Citadel came out, we had to start dropping songs from Portal of Eye to be able to fit the Citadel songs in, and I'd be like, we don't play Icicles anymore, we don't play Tapestry anymore, Butterflies, those sorts of songs, and I used to love playing them live. But now, with the kind of show and the kind of set list that we have, when we do throw them in, they seem out of place. Maybe not to you guys, but to us definitely. We feel like it's a lull in the show, in this, in the concert that we're playing, and the main reason we don't play those songs is we don't want to have the lull in the show. And if there wasn't a lull, we would probably play longer, and that's the main reason. Like 90 minutes is still a really, really hard show to play, especially for Dan, because it's pretty full on for him the whole time, but for us as well. Always moving on stage takes up a lot of energy. 90 minutes for us, 90 minutes doesn't feel like a long time, but it is. That's it. I don't really think, personally, I would like to play a few of the songs maybe from the EP one day, but with the recent lineup change, I don't think that would ever happen now. I think it would be far too much work to get the other guys up to speed to where it was, and their songs, even us, we know the songs back to front, but we don't play the songs. It was a mission relearning the songs for everyone to do those EPs. That was a lot of work, Because back then we didn't have things like Guitar Pro. We hadn't tabbed anything out. It was all just listen to the song, relearn the song, try to remember the riffs. We can't quite remember how to play some of the riffs, so we just had to do our best to make them, to replicate what it used to sound like. And we had no real demos of the songs. The best I had because I film everything. I have a lot of footage of since the start of the band, sort of thing. And so, it was just listening back through crappy video footage of us playing live, trying to work out what we were playing, watching our hand position, sort of thing. Realising that the music that we were playing at that stage we couldn't actually play properly. And so it's... I don't think that we would... There isn't really any songs that we'd like to play more often. We do, just for fun, and to change things up every now and then, if we're on a long tour, and... you play the same set night after night after night after night. Sometimes it can get a bit stale, so sometimes we'll swap something around just to change it up a bit and keep everyone on their toes, but that's about it. I just want you to know that you're a part of a band that has changed the way I understand music. I feel music and I write my music. I want to know the feeling of a great musician when they can do things like that to people. I don't consider myself a great musician at all. I play a lot by feel and try to convey an emotion, but I don't really think about the music that I'm playing. And whilst I think I come up with lots of good ideas, it's a slow way of doing it. And I know if I had more of a theory-based background that would be a lot easier. I don't know. The feeling that I get seeing the crowd reaction to the songs that we write. That's a really, really good feeling to know, especially where the band started. So, like in Melbourne, when we first started out, it was like everyone hated us because we had violin, had clean male vocals, not female vocals. And it was like the scene wanted to get us, and it was like hate campaigns and stuff about it. It's like, this is like 2006, but we didn't no demo, nothing. We played a couple of shows to 100 people in the city, and it was sort of like all these people came out, these underground people came out of the woodwork to try and shut us down as quick as they could. And at first it was a little bit, whoa, these guys are pretty full on, but after a while it was like, hang on a minute, these guys are trying to like shut us down for playing music. They must feel threatened. Seeing the crowd react to our music makes me want to react or perform for the crowd more. And I really get off on it. I like it. It's a great feeling. The best is when you get the goosebumps on stage or something like that. Like something, you get to a section and everything is just perfect. And it's just, really, really good feeling. Surreal feeling sometimes. Surreal is a good way to describe it. Trim. If you were stranded on a desert island and could pick one band member to be with you, who would you choose and why? Does Troy count as a band member? If Troy does count as a band member, I'd take Troy. He's resourceful, he's good with his hands, he comes up with good ideas, he'd be good at survival. So Troy would, if we can count Troy as the 7th member, or the 6th member now, Troy. And if it has to be a direct member of the band, Dan, I would say, if I was stuck on a deserted island. Tim would talk too much to me, and I'd get pissed off. Zen wouldn't talk enough. I think Dan or Benji. That's a hard one. Benji and I normally share a room when we're on tour. Like if we sleep somewhere, it'll be Benji and I will bunk up together. But that's Dan or Benji, I think. Given that Benji writes most of the music now, what do you bring to the songwriting and arranging process, and which Neo did you write the most for? I wouldn't really say Benji writes the most Benji writes the most riffs, but for time of music, like the amount of for our ideas are on is almost 50-50. I think Benji might be a little more. He was more on Citadel, but I definitely was more on Port Levi. It's just, yeah, we don't really have set songwriters. It's if someone comes up with something good, like Tim's writing stuff, and whilst we haven't used it yet, like it's in the works. It's a we have a thing in Dropbox that we call the riff library, where we'll come up with a riff or a section or something like that, or an idea that we've been jamming on for a while, and if we get stuck or whatever, it'll go in there so that down the track, if we start writing something and we're like, oh, this is this key, maybe this will work with that riff, and then we go back, listen to the riff, and sometimes we can bring old riffs back, old riffs that we haven't used into new stuff, which is sort of what we did for Devour Me Colossus. So before Benji had joined the band and we were working on Port Levi stuff, Corey had left the band, and Dan, Tim and I were still jamming regularly, and we'd written a song that we called Black Melancholia, and that was meant to be, we were hoping that was going to be on Port Levi. Anyway, by the time we had auditioned Benji and getting up to speed with all the current songs that we had, we sort of stopped working on anything new, just until the old catalogue was sort of up to scratch, so we could play live, prepare to go into the studio and all that sort of stuff. So we had this big section for Black Melancholia. Anyway, we started writing for Citadel, and we had Pyrrhic, Painters of the Tempest, and the start of Devour Me Colossus, and we didn't know where to go. And we were I'm pretty sure we were at my house or something jamming one day, and I went to a D minor chord, and I was like, that is the same start as this thing that we used to have. And then when we put it together, it worked really, really, really well. And it was just we needed to come up with an end after that. It was almost, we've gone from a 4 or 5 minute song to an 8-minute song just like that. Like without even having to jam it, we knew it was going to work. Which is a really, really good idea of having the riff library, because there's this stuff always in there. And then from there it was just, I came up with the whole ending sort of section, and that's how we sort of wrote it. Which Neo did you write the most for? I almost want to say Earn. The new album is the album that I've written the most for. Obviously, like the EP stuff, I wrote a lot of stuff on that. Like Upon the Tongue of Eloquence, like the whole second half of that was me. All of Fellow to See, a little bit of Black Hands. I'm kind of trying to think of the songs. All the Scarlet Tears. Chamber. Tim wrote Chamber. And what's the other song? I can't remember what the other song was now. Oh, Beyond the Hourglass. I didn't have anything to do with that one. What non-metal bands have you been listening to lately? None. Really? None. I haven't listened to any music lately. It's just only been the new Neo album for months now. That's all I've listened to. That's all that I've consciously listened to, that I've sat down to listen to. There's always been music on in the background or just around. And there's always music in the house, the kids listen to music, my wife listens to music. Haven't really been listening to anything lately. You can convince the band to play a cover song live, which song would it be? I don't think we would ever play a cover song live, or we may one day, but it's definitely not a priority. We talk about it occasionally, and then we talk about how pissed off our fans would be if we missed one of our songs to play someone else's song. Because people complain about songs that we don't play already. So to drop another song to play a song by someone else isn't really a priority. If we were to do one though, I would have to say it would almost 100% be an Emperor song, because that is the only band that everyone in the band listens to. And personally, it'd be something like Iron Black Wizards or Anthems or something like that. Yeah, that's about it. Actually, at soundcheck, when we're on tour with a band that we like and really get along with, sometimes we learn one of their songs. So when we're on tour with Cradle, we learnt one of their new songs, and nearly every sound check we would jam it. And then when we caught up with every time we catch up with Lindsay around the world, if we happen to be in the same country or city or whatever, she'll come there, and if she's there, we'll play it for her. And we did the same with Black Crown. I think it was Red Cloud we learnt, or at the start of anyway. You know, maybe just a riff or two, but we'll do it just for fun every day. But yeah, I doubt we'll be doing it anytime soon. I don't know, I enjoy the songs more than the guitarists. Good songwriting should always come, I think good songwriting should be over good guitar playing. Because the song is what matters at the end of the day, it's not how good the guitarist is. Whilst it's just a bonus if the guitar is sick. But yeah. I don't like to think that we are overly influenced by too many guitarists, or too many individual sort of players, because we don't want to sound like anyone else. And I think that's a good thing about Neo, is that we don't listen to the same, everyone in the band listens to different music. No one listens to the same bands. We don't go to the same shows, sort of thing. I think that's a key element to why Neo works the way it does. How important is knowing music theory when writing for Neo, and do you spend much time doing formal instrument practice? Music theory knowledge is important. You can get by without it. However, it is so much easier if you have musical theory knowledge, like ridiculously easier. When I first joined the band, I had next to no musical theory knowledge. So most of my theory knowledge has come from working with the guys in the band. So working with people like Benji, Tim especially, because Tim is a classical violin teacher. He's been he knows his theory inside and out. So it's just over the years picking up a lot of stuff from them. After we recorded Citadel, I felt I was stuck in a rut, and I really needed to improve my playing, what I did, my practice structure and all that sort of stuff. So I took lessons for maybe nearly 6 to 12 months. I was having lessons before we started to tour heavily. Once we started touring, I ended up I stopped taking lessons, but I have every intention of picking them back up with the same guy, which is Michael Warren. He teaches in Narre Warren South. Mayhem Music, I think, is his guitar school. Very, very good teacher. He is a fan of people like Paul Gilbert, Steve Vai, Petrucci. They're the people that they're his guitar heroes, I guess. And he's done some very, very cool things, and he's a great teacher and explains things. He gets what I want to do musically and where I'm at with my playing, and knows the things that I need to work on to be able to improve and get to the next level of my playing. I remember hearing you were a fan of Pale Ales. Excellent taste. Which is your favourite? I'm a huge fan of Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. Yep. Yeah, I do. I like Pale Ale. Sometimes I haven't had any for a while. There's a beer that I've been on at the moment. It's called Furphy. It's a beer brewed in Geelong in Victoria in Australia. And it's not a bad drop. My favourite beer would probably be the Mountain Goat Steam Ale beer. Actually, for the last 2 or 3 months, I haven't really been drinking at all. Just with everything that has been going on in the start of the year, and just the amount of stress and pressure I've been on, it would have been an extremely bad idea for me to continue to drink. So I stopped, just to try and keep a clear head, not overreact to things. and just get my mental state where it needs to be, because it was going downhill very, very, very quickly, to the point where I was struggling to get out of bed some days, and it was not, wasn't in a very good place at the start of the year. But yeah, much better now, and it's not. I haven't quit drinking. It's just I've been intentionally avoiding drinking lately. But yes, Sierra Nevada, I know it well. The first day of the US tour that we did with Black Crown Initiate, it was Dan's birthday, and Dan and I got a case of Sierra Nevada, and I paid for it severely the next day in the Walmart car park when we woke up. Yeah, that was a pretty full on night. It is a good beer though. Another really, really good pale ale that we had was in the US on tour, and it was the Wicked Weed Pale Ale. That's one of my favourite beers I've had in the US, period, is the Wicked Weed beers. Their variety, and just, it was really great. Unfortunately, our friend Justin Shearer, he passed away a few weeks ago. He's the one who introduced us to the beer. Yeah, very, very sad situation indeed. Tourist tips for Melbourne. It's highly unlikely. Tina. Hello, Tina. Melbourne is... There is lots and lots of things to do in Melbourne. You'll find everything just about in the tourist guide. Not anything that's worth doing, but all the big things are going to be there. The person that you want to ask this question is Benji, because he appreciates it. I've lived in... not in Melbourne, but yeah, outside in Victoria. Like, I don't like I said earlier, I don't go to Melbourne very often at all. Everything I do is around my house, or actually no, I spend a lot of time away from Melbourne, about 2 hours, hour and a half, 2 hours away from Melbourne, down the coast. Because like I said before, I like to go down to the beach, I like to surf, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, my advice would be to head down that way, head down Phillip Island, Cape Patterson, Inverloch, and then further around down to Wilson's Promontory, in Shallow Inlet, and all those sorts of places. They're the places that I like to go and like to see and do things. Yeah. Honestly, I don't really read books. I don't have time to read books. I do the band. I still have, obviously still need to work, and I have my family, so I don't have time for books. I like to experience things. Well, no, actually, I enjoy movies, film. I enjoy watching a movie more than I do reading a book. It is what it is. The books that I read would be more instructional books, or I don't know, something like Lord of the Flies I enjoyed that. Yeah, but I don't read very often. I do watch movies. Ask me a question about movies next time. or a series or something like that. Yeah, on tour I watch lots of movies. That's like the main thing. And the thing I find in Europe is I can't download enough. The internet is too good. What else? And that's it. Oh no, there was one more question about my favourite guitar. If I could choose, if I had the opportunity to spec out a private stock PRS, what kind of features would be on it? The top wood, I would have a flame maple with really, 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 really tight green. I haven't really got anything good enough to show you. Or maybe I'll try and find something online. Probably colour is a hard one. It's not really feasible to do, but I would like a coloured guitar to match the album cycle that I'm on. By chance, it happened that way the last couple of albums. So I had my this red Custom 22 PRS guitar on Portal of Eye. It's what we used to track, record, write, tour with. Maple top, mahogany back, Dragon 2 pickups, bird inlay, rosewood fretboard, 22 frets, really, really nice guitar. And then, yeah, the Citadel guitar was my Sapphire PRS SE Custom, but we had to go to 7-string, so PRS don't have the core model in a 7-string, so it would have to be private stock, and unfortunately I can't afford a private stock guitar. But yeah, so it would be something like that. It's like that grain, yeah, it's a nice grain, but I would like it tighter and straighter than that grain. However, I would get these pickups. These are the new pickups I had put in for the album, for the new album, which are a Seymour Duncan Pegasus and Sentient pickups, 7-string pickups. Really, really good. You hear everything, which is a good thing and a bad thing. But yeah, that, and probably years ago, around 2014, when I was first endorsed by PRS, I had the dream to sort of do that, sort of build my own, design how the PRS guitar I wanted to look, and I had the guitar sitting like that, and it was like a grey burst, so it was grey in the middle with black on the outside, and I was going to try and get the Neo logo, sort of the O, sort of running around there, sort of through the pickup, so it's sort of broken up a little bit like that, and yeah, love it. Now, the only other guitar that I was sort of consider and have been looking into a little bit was the Ormsby guitars. They look cool. When I saw the Shark fretboard, that's what sort of got me looking at looking into Ormsby guitars, because it looked cool. And then the Australian guitar maker, high-end guitars. He was inspired by PRS, because that's one of the things I thought when I first saw the Ormsby was I could tell the similarities between PRS, but it wasn't a PRS rip-off. But I could immediately make that connection. And then, like, looking into more and more of what Perry's doing and whatever, found out that was the connection that he had. And and then when we were on tour with Black Crown in the US, just before we went on tour, I started to come down with carpal tunnel in my hands, and so while I'm playing, my hand would go numb, and luckily it was mainly my right hand, which was my strumming hand. But the problem was I couldn't feel the guitar pick, so I was playing, and then eventually it moved to my left hand as well, but it was never anywhere near as bad in my left hand. And then I started to look into the things I had to do to manage my carpal tunnel, because it's not quite at the stage. It hasn't affected me for a while now, like probably over 6 months. The doctors think that it was just some sort of aggravation caused in my wrist at the time when we were touring, because that was the sort of towards the end of when we were touring heavily. Like in between tours, I'd have to work, and because I couldn't hold a steady job, it was do whatever work you can get. And so, me with a construction background, generally the work that you can get regularly is hard, heavy work. And so the problem was, it was affecting my wrists, it was causing my wrists to swell up, and it affected my guitar playing massively. And so then I had to start wearing wrist braces, just to stop me from moving, like restrict the movement I had in my hands, just when I'm not playing guitar. And it helped a lot. It just gave my hands and my wrists time to settle, because the difference in my hands from when I go on tour to when I come back from tour is amazing. So when I go on tour, my hands are big and muscly and retaining water or whatever, and I come back from tour and they're skinny and they look like a guitarist sort of hands. Looking into the fan fretboard as well with the Ormsbys, because I watched a video of Perry talking about the fan fret one day, and he mentioned about the carpal tunnel, and so ever since then I've been keeping a keen eye on the Ormsby range, and if they come up with something nice that I really like, there is a chance that I will look into something like that. But at this stage, at the same time, I love my PRSs. They sound great, they feel great. That's the reason why I've been playing them for the last sort of 12 years, something like that. That's all I've been playing pretty much. Yeah. Alright, thanks guys, thanks for your time, thanks for watching. I hope I answered all of your questions satisfactorily. And I hope you enjoy the new album and the new song, and I'll see you next time.